I'm Larry Bundy with the Ohio Valley Fly Rod Club. Today I'm going to be tying the green woolly bugger in moss green. What's different about this fly is I use marabou for the entire body. I do not use chenille. I have used chenille in the past, but I've gotten where I don't use chenille now. All I use is the marabou. So to get started with a material list, what we use is we use a Mustad 79 580, 2 extra heavy, 5X long, and that's the hook we'll use. We use 8/0 olive thread. 6/0 can be used. 6/0 usually builds up a little heavy on the tie off, so I prefer 8/0. We also are going to be using moss green, marabou, medium gold ultra wire, and this is actually a whiting bugger pack. That's what I used for the feather. And one of the things that I do to make it a lot easier is I use this marabou with a sponge with water in it. It's actually in a baggie, and I get real wet, and then I move it with my fingers along it, and then that makes it real wet. It's a whole lot easier to tie that way. I've already got the hook installed in the vise, put in the vise. And what I'm going to use is this lead wire. It's actually lead free. And I'll start about the hook point, wrap almost all the way up to the eye. I'll leave enough room to tie off later. Usually leave about 1 to 1.5 hooks, eye diameters, and just wiggle it, and then it makes a real nice clean cut. Hands are a little bit wet from that water. Next thing is we'll tie in, or we'll put the thread base on. Tie enough just in front of the lead to kind of jam the lead to keep it from moving. It usually doesn't move. Do the same thing in the back, and wrap the thread base all the way to the back. Come back up to about the lead. Clip off the tag end. And I already wet the marabou. What I try to do on the marabou is I'll use about the hook length on the very tail end of it. That's what I'll tie in the very tail end. It's a little bit tricky to use this wet, but it's a whole lot easier than trying to use it dry. So I'll tie that in. I'm going to move this light in a little bit better so we can see. The next step, I'll try to get this out of the way for tying in the wire. Tie in the medium wire. It's being tied on the back side. You might not be able to see that well. And then tie it back in the same spot that we tied off the marabou. And then we tie in the feather. Have to be a little careful with this 8/0 thread because it will break. And then run the thread back up to where the tie-off point will be. Now we'll use the rotating vise and wrap the marabou. You see how that all stays in one place? Makes a nice body. And then we tie that off, clip off the excess. Next step is to wrap the feather, and we'll palmer it all the way up to the front of the hook where we'll tie it off. The rotating vise makes it real easy to do that. And an important step here is to make sure we put a 1/2 hitch because we're going to be reverse wrapping that wire. And if you're not using a rotating vise, you don't have to worry about this step. But we use a 1/2 hitch here because it's going to actually turn the vise in the opposite direction of what the thread is wrapped, and it'll unwrap. So the next step is to wrap the wire, and you will see me wiggling it back and forth. And what that does is that allows the wire to go in between the barbels, and it doesn't flatten them down. And then we finish tying it off. Trim off the excess wire. We finish it. And as you'll notice, it's wet, and that's the way it's going to be in the water. When it's tied, it looks more like this after it dries, but this is the way it's going to look in the water. Hope you enjoy.